Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Adjustment meeting for March 6th, 2023. What we will do right now is first call this meeting to order, and we will start with seating the alternate, which would be Fernando. He will have the same vote as everybody else on this board. Okay? We will start now with a roll call, starting from left to right.
Frank McElroy, present.
Earl Hartzog.
Richard Jevett.
Ferrando Hayward.
Regina Agee.
All right, thank you very much for everyone. Right now, we have hearing of residents. What this will do is we will allow the residents time to speak on, just to address the Board of Adjustment, the issues that they come up with. If they are related to any of the items on the agenda, you're welcome to wait until that time and actually be part of the agenda items. Your time is limited to 3 minutes. If you would make sure that when you come up here, you state your name and address so that everybody can get the information on it. During that time period, there will be no questions in regards to any of the particular issues. The issues that you may have will be taken by our staff here, and if they are required, will be put on future agenda items. Okay? So let's take a look at the residents that signed up. Will Holbrook? Okay. Well, welcome anyway. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else? Okay. Since we do not have, we have some items number 4, which is the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, everybody should have a copy of the packet, so the minutes for November 29th, 2022, the minutes for January 31st, 2022. If you would kindly take a look at those items, if there are any issues that need to be adjusted on that or any comments, please let me know. If not, then we need to get a motion to approve.
Question.
Mr. Herzog.
I have a question. We already approved the minutes of January 31st, 2022, a few meetings back. Is this right, what we're doing tonight? Or that needs to be addressed, and what did the staff find out?
Go ahead. I think what we can do, if you want, is at the present time, let's do item A, which is the minutes of the November 29th, 2022. We'll take care of that one first, and then we'll go on to the next one, if that's all right. Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of November 29th, 2022.
Okay, do I
I'll
have a
second.
second? Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes for November 29th, 2022. Take a vote, starting from left to right.
Aye.
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 Aye. We have 5 ayes. The motion passes. The minutes are accepted. Okay. If you can go on to that January so that we can take a look at that.
Yeah, of course. So the January 31st, 2022 regular meeting minutes were previously approved, but at our last meeting in November, Mr. Hartzog, you noted that there was an error that we needed to bring those minutes back forward. So if you go to the January 31st minutes in your packet, item C originally said a 3-to-1 vote passed. However, according to the Board of Adjustment bylaws, a 3-to-1 vote does not pass. It's a failed vote because 4 members of the Board of Adjustment need to vote in the same direction in order for a motion to pass. So we made that correction that it now says 3-1 failed, and then put a little note, due to the Board of Adjustment having 4 members present, since 3 members voted aye and 1 member voted nay, the motion failed and the variance request was denied. And just a point of clarification, on the results memo that went to the applicant directly after that meeting, it noted that the variance was denied. The sign was not constructed with that variance as approved. It's strictly just the minutes were incorrect. But everything else is fine. Happy to answer any questions.
Any
So-
questions from anyone?
Yes. What do we need to do to make this correct?
You need to approve
the
these
minutes.
minutes.
Okay.
Just need to approve the amended minutes.
Say amended?
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Quick question, which variance was this again? If you just refresh my memory just a little bit.
So this was for the variance for the building along IH 35 that wanted the 20-foot, elimination of the 20-foot landscape buffer and the reduction of the front setback from 50 feet to 12 feet. So the vote was 3-1 with Mr. Hartzog being the nay vote.
Okay, that's at the corner of Schertz Parkway and I-35, that one? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, what authority do we have to amend the minutes? I probably need to ask that.
So you have the ability to amend them per the bylaws. The same
Okay.
way that you approve the minutes.
So they were notified that it was denied? And that was our understanding at the
Yes.
meeting as well? So then,
It was literally just a clerical error on the minutes themselves. Everybody knew the variance was denied, the applicant knew the variance was denied, it was just the minutes. We use a software called Agenda Quick, and when you only have 4 members, it thinks that 3 versus 1 is an approval, and it was just something that staff missed.
okay, so at November's meeting, we basically kind of missed that then? Or when we approved
And they
it?
were
Okay.
approved, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 31st, 22, regular meeting as amended.
Second.
Now we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion's passed. Minutes are accepted. All right. Moving on now to the agenda. Since this item is actually a public hearing item, we will hold that. The staff will do their presentation. Once the presentation is finished, we will open it up for a public hearing, and then anyone else may be able to speak on that particular issue. All right, so if you don't mind, we have item number A, which is PLVAR 20220-227, and it's a public hearing, consider an act upon a request for a variance to Unified Development Code, Article 11, Section 211112, multi-tenant signs, in order to permit a multi-tenant sign with increased maximum height, increased maximum area, and removal of the requirement for masonry on multi-tenant signs located at 17975 IH 35 North, Unit B, in the city of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Please.
Good evening, board members. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So this is a requested variance for 17975 IH 35 Unit B, which is currently under construction for a Murdoch's Ranch and Home Supply. So this is the aerial exhibit. You can see the subject property outlined in green. It is the old Garden Ridge buildings, and specifically Murdoch's is taking that middle building, Unit B. So on February 14th, city staff sent 8 public hearing notices. They were mailed to all the property owners within 200 feet. As of right now, we have not received a single response in favor or opposed to the request. And then the public hearing was also noticed in the San Antonio Express News on February 15th. So this is a picture of the requested Murdoch's sign that's in for the variance tonight. It is considered a multi-tenant sign, as there's You can see the Murdochs on the top and then 2 sections, 2 cabinets for future tenants. So the variance request is to allow this proposed 40-foot tall, 280 square foot multi-tenant sign, which would not contain any masonry. So there are 3 components really to this requested variance: increased height, increased area, and removal of all the masonry requirements. And we're going to go through each one. So the first slide I want to show you is the UDC regulations versus the proposed sign. So Article 11, Section 211112B is the maximum height requirements for a multi-tenant sign. The UDC currently allows 20 feet in height. So the request is for 40 feet, so it's an additional 20 feet that they're requesting, which is why that portion of the variance is being requested. They would like that additional 20 feet. Article 11, Section 211112C, maximum area. The UDC currently states area shall be equivalent to 1% of the gross building square footage with a maximum of 150 square feet. And as I mentioned, they are requesting 280 square feet. And then the last section, Article 11, Section 211112G, material requirements. The UDC states all multi-tenant monument signs shall be constructed of masonry material consisting of brick, stone, or split-face concrete block. Excuse me. And as you saw in the previous slide, they are not proposing to do any masonry. So when staff typically looks at variance requests, we ask ourselves the same 4 questions that we ask the applicant. So kind of running through those, the requested variance does not violate the intent of the UDC, as the increased height and area would assist customers in locating the business on the property, especially with it being located on IH 35. There's no special conditions of restricted area, topography, or physical features that are peculiar. Apart from it being on 35, the property is zoned Planned Development District. The applicant is requesting a variance to build a different, larger sign than the UDC allows. And then adjacent properties do advertise with signs that appear taller than the 20 feet that the UDC requires. However, these signs are single-tenant signs. And I'm going to go into that a little bit in more detail. I'm just going to get my paper because that's really small to read, and I don't want to misquote any of the UDC sections. So when reviewing the differences between a multi-tenant versus a single-tenant freestanding ground sign, it was determined that there's inconsistencies in the UDC. So I want to back up to the proposed Murdoch sign. So since there's Murdochs and then 2 future tenants, that's what makes this a multi-tenant. If it was just the Murdochs and didn't have those 2 future tenant cabinets, this would be considered a freestanding ground sign and have different UDC requirements. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through these. So if it's a multi-tenant signage, our maximum height is 20 feet. Where if it was a freestanding ground sign, our maximum height is 50 feet. So if you want to include multiple tenants, you have to reduce your sign overall height by 30 feet, rather than if you were just a single tenant, you could have 50 feet. If you're a multi-tenant sign, our maximum area is 150 square feet. But if you're a freestanding ground sign, a single tenant, you can have 250 square feet. Multi-tenant signage, again, requires masonry, where a freestanding ground sign does not. There's no material requirements. So when we started looking at the differences, it's not very clear on why if you're a multi-tenant sign, you have to be significantly smaller than if you were just advertising your one business. So I want to put a little caveat on the bottom. Those above requirements are specifically for signage along areas with limited access, which is the IH 35 is classified. So, as I mentioned, in other words, if the subject property was proposing a single-tenant sign, they would be allowed a 50-foot tall, 250 square foot sign. However, since they're proposing to have spaces for the other tenants rather than have multiple signs, they just want to have one sign on the property, they're limited to 20 feet in height and 150 square feet in area. After reviewing this UDC section in relation to this variance, it was discussed with the development subcommittee that a UDC amendment should be considered that would modify the multi-tenant sign requirements to be in line with what's currently allowed if it was a freestanding single-tenant sign. So because of that, due to that proposed upcoming UDC amendment in relation to signage, staff is recommending approval to increase the allowable height and allowable area to be consistent with the freestanding ground sign requirements. And then I've broken it down a little bit more. So due to the proposal being for a maximum height of 40 feet, this is recommended by approval for staff. In relation to the proposed area of 280 square feet, staff is recommending that the Board of Adjustment only approve a maximum area of 250 square feet. So it would require the sign contractor to modify that proposed signage to make it a little bit smaller. They'd lose about 30 square feet to be within that 250 that would be allowed if it was just a freestanding ground sign. And then in relation to the proposal to not provide a masonry material, staff is going to recommend approval for that as well. So really what staff is doing is we're recommending approval to the freestanding ground sign requirements because we are going to bring forward a UDC amendment in the upcoming months to make those more consistent. So with that, that's the end of staff's presentation, but I know the applicant is here and would like to make a couple of comments.
Okay, at this time, we will open it for public hearing, and we could have a member from the Murdoch's, I believe it is, give us a little talk.
Good evening, board members. My name is Greg Burkett, 7208 South W.W. White Road, San Antonio, Texas. I'm Apex Sign Group, the sign company that would be doing the sign for Murdoch's. I would just like to make a point regarding the square footage. So I did read the code. I could have easily missed it. I was looking for anything that would detail how we would figure square footage. And there are issues and options that we can look at. So if we take the oval, we take the geometric shape of the sign, we're actually under the 250 square feet. We're actually 233.11 square feet. So my argument would be, would it be possible to approve the sign as presented? And my analogy would be, when you buy a house, do they come in there and square off your house, or do they figure the geometric shape? Worst case scenario, if the tax appraiser, how do they do it? Do they footprint your entire area? So our argument, we would like to request, being that this is an oval, to not be penalized for the shape of the sign, to take the actual geometric shape as the true square footage for this sign.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm Will Holbrook. I'm with Murdoch's. We are very pleased to come here to Schertz. You will be our second store in the state of Texas. So we plan on opening in, give or take, June, okay? Late June. But we appreciate the staff and all the staff work that the staff has done on this. We would like to see that the oval be taken into consideration because that is our national trademark. And coming down 35, as I have for the last 45 years, it's hard to see up on that thing. But to see that oval stand out there, it gives a definition of Murdoch's and what I believe will be a very good partnership with this city and with Murdoch's.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll close this public hearing. We have the staff member to come up here. And are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, to staff, the issue that was raised by the applicant about the oval and taking that into consideration and determining the overall square footage, what is the city's response to that?
So I would say our standard practice is for all signage, when we're reviewing signage, is we would draw a rectangle around the oval, and that's how we would calculate the square footage. We try to keep it consistent, and we use those rough shapes on every sign packet that we look at.
If I may, I'm going to probe a little further. What is the basis behind that method? Why does the city do that? Where does that come from? And in essence, what authority? Where is it in the code somewhere? That kind of thing.
So it's my understanding that it's at the discretion of our chief building official, our building permits and inspections department, as they are the permit reviewers. So the planning division does not actually review permits when this is going through the building permit process. It's my understanding that they have the authority to do that, to draw the rough rectangle. And when I say we're drawing a rough rectangle, we're not doing, I'm going to go to the screen, so bear with me because you're not going to hear me. square footage.
One other question, and this goes to kind of my position since I've been on this board for I don't know, a long time. And that is that, you know, we do exactly what the UDC and the city ordinance that justifies our being here to do. So my question, with that preamble, is that why should we consider this if there is going to be an amendment placed before, I assume, city council to amend the UDC?
So when you think about UDC amendments, they can take several months to get through. They're going to the Planning and Zoning Commission once and then to the City Council twice. There's the state law noticing requirements before City Council's public hearings as well. So rather than making the applicant wait several months to go through this UDC amendment process, we felt like bringing the variance request forward was an appropriate action. That way we're helping both Murdochs. And truly, the Murdochs requesting this variance is what spurred staff to take a look at the UDC amendment.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes. I got a question. I've got my engineering hat on, so forgive me for a second. Because calculations should be more specific and not, I know you have to have some leeway to make things easier, but what we're doing now is essentially taking their signature trademark and asking them to change it for us, our code, so we can match a UDC by making them reduce the size and shape of their logo.
So I would say the alternative is you don't have to go with staff's recommendation of doing 250 square feet. You could propose and approve the requested variance to allow a 280 square foot sign, which would accommodate the way staff calculates the square footage and accommodate the sign that Murdoch's would like in terms of size.
Okay, I'm just, because I'm tilting my hand for where I stand at on this.
Okay. Mr. Herzog.
Give me something to compare this size with, like the Discount Auto up there has kind of an oval shape. Where does it fit with this?
I do
What
not
is-
know.
What is the square footage of the billboard up there that's already on?
So I'll say
How big a surface, what percentage of square footage do those signs?
I do not know the exact dimensions of the Discount Tire sign. I mean, I can tell you that the Murdoch's proposed oval is 19 feet 2 inches across. So if you think about 19 feet 2 inches, that's how wide the sign is. But I don't have a direct other sign square footage to tell you.
What,
To do the comparison, if you will, right, between the two. So basically what we're looking at here is the new setup that the UDC codes will be applied based on what we decide here for Murdoch's, in a sense.
So I would say ultimately it's Planning and Zoning Commission's gonna make a recommendation and City Council's either gonna approve or deny what UDC requirement we bring forward. But I would say if the Board of Adjustment is comfortable with 280 square feet instead of 250 square feet, then we will take that into consideration when we're proposing those UDC amendments. And then staff will look at, well, do we want freestanding and multi-tenant to have 280 square feet rather than 250? Well, we will take what happens here tonight into consideration when we move those UDC amendments forward.
Okay.
I have one more question, because the fact that a single tenant and a multi-tenant are different. This is more a statement than a question is embedded in this statement. The assumption is that there will always be multi-tenants, so they may not be, those spaces may not be occupied, so we're penalizing someone who sets up a space for multi-tenants.
The way that the code currently reads, yes. If you come in with a multi-tenant, even though they say future tenant and they may never be filled, they would have to be reduced to the multi-tenant requirements.
Okay. All right. Mr. Herzog?
Another quick question here.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? Okay. This question may actually be better to the applicant, if I might. So, obviously without us taking a vote just yet, I tend to agree with your assessment of the oval. I think it's, and that's why my question was to the city, like, where does that come from to? So my question to you is, why not request the 50 feet? Why just 40?
We looked at that, and there's a lot of different variations on that. I mean, you then get into some more engineering type situations. You go 10 foot higher, and you're gonna have some wind and some other things. It's just and I'll be honest with you, we didn't really want to stretch the board on that. Okay, I mean that is me as the construction project manager for the project. I looked at them and I said, 40 looks right. Okay, we didn't want to. I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to say it, be a bad neighbor. Let's say that or something. That's more in my line.
And I would say too, it seems counterintuitive to penalize them for boxing off a sign when that's just open area. It's space. It's counterintuitive to me to say that's a 288 square foot sign when in reality, the footprint is 233 square feet. I can calculate it all day. I do the geometry, and it doesn't lie. Now, are there some cities that do box it off? Yes, but there are as many cities that take the geometric shape as there are the ones that just box it off, and it's written in their code how they do it and how they figure it. And not to argue with the code at all. I'm not here to do that. I'm just saying it just seems they're penalized for having an oval.
Sure. No, I tend to agree with you, but it's, my approach is usually to do the minimum. The code is what it is, and, we're gonna make a variance, and it's gonna be the minimum that we do. And that's why I was asking, why not the 50 feet? That'd be one less thing we'd have to consider.
If you want me to make it 50, I'll make it 50. I mean, I'm comfortable with 40, but if it's for the betterment of the board, I'll do it. Is that fair? That's all I try to be.
Sounds good. Would that be any kind of issue for the city to do that? I don't think so.
Ultimately, staff's recommendation is just to evaluate this more as a single tenant freestanding ground sign, so we would be comfortable utilizing the freestanding ground sign requirements, which would allow the 50 feet.
All right. Mr. Herzog?
Okay, I'm trying to find the comparison. 280, what size would that be with our billboard that's setting up
Now,
there?
you say billboard, are you talking about a billboard, as in what?
That's what's setting out there, that Panera Bread, isn't it?
Panera Bread is down.
I'm sorry, I'm one of the partners that own the building, and so, the Panera Bread is actually a separate, it's owned by the advertising company itself. I don't know how tall it is, to be honest with you.
This is Joe Simmons.
Yeah, Joe Simmons,
Sorry
I'm
about that.
sorry, yeah. So anyway, the Panera Bread is separately owned by the actual advertising company that built it, and I'm not aware of how tall it is. But do you know how tall the sign would be in comparison?
No, I don't. We didn't do a comparison.
What's the
between
normal billboard size?
Well, an actual billboard is 14 by 48.
Okay,
That's a typical billboard that's across the country.
okay, and how many square footage is that?
That's 600 and some odd square feet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big, was it?
I mean, it's quite deceiving when a sign gets up in the air on a billboard, but when you get it on the ground, it's amazing how large some of them are. But when they get up in the air, they dwarf. That's why they have to be of substantial size to be able to read the copy and be able to see the sign. I'm gonna go off of memory, but the SAS shoes we did, that was back in the 80s. it's about a 70-foot sign, and that top oval, the SAS, I think is 11 by 22 feet. If my memory serves me right, do not hold me on that. Yeah,
He's doing the math. and
How many?
figuring
I can
square
promise you my wife will, no, don't hold me on any of my memory stuff.
Okay,
And what will that square footage be? What you were, the numbers you were
11
given?
by 220.
I think it's 11 by 22, the SAS sign there, the SAS shoes north of the property.
Uh-huh,
So that'd be still within the tolerance level.
yeah. And a question, on the two tenants you have there, what happens if we get a third? Do we have to come back here and get our approval, or can they just add as many tenants as they want up there?
So it would be based on that square footage. So, you know, if you did 280 square foot as the approval and they, however they use their 280 square foot is up to them. But if they wanted to exceed that 280 square foot, they would have to come back. Yeah.
Right.
Even by adding the tenants on the bottom? I'm
Yeah.
thinking kind of like the Walmart sign.
So the tenants and the Murdochs, that's all combined to be the square footage, the maximum area.
However, that 280 square feet is by rectangling that off,
That's correct.
correct?
And I will tell you that this sign's engineered for this wind load. It's not designed to add additional tenants to it. It's designed exactly for that specific wind load.
I'd say there are three tenants there now. Murdoch's is on the top, there are two other tenants that would fill the panels. There are three buildings, and that's really where it comes down to. And so we don't anticipate, for example, five more applying there. It's just three buildings, so.
Or I guess, instead of another variance, you could shrink down the tenant signs, right?
We can cut the tenant sign down, sure.
Any other questions?
That gentleman needs does the secretary need his name and everything? You have it?
Yeah, please.
It's Joe Simmons, and I'm with the ownership
Okay,
of the buildings.
that's just for the,
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question related to the amendments that you're gonna be making to the UDC.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about making a new proposal for the requirements for the UDC, you indicated that whatever we vote on tonight is something along the lines of what you may be recommending
So-
for the new UDC. So if we go with the 280, then instead of being 250 and 30, you're thinking you're gonna recommend the 280.
So we could, we'll discuss it as staff and we'll discuss it with that development subcommittee and see if that's something they're comfortable with. When we discussed it with the subcommittee, they were more along the lines of, let's just make multi-tenant and freestanding ground match. So it would be 50 feet in height, 250 square feet in area.
Okay, is multi-tenant and freestanding is one tenant.
Yes, ma'am.
So it stands to reason to me, if you've got a sign with multi-tenant, that it could possibly be larger than the single tenant. So even if we go with the 280, that doesn't mean that you still have to have matching sign requirements. If you want to keep the single tenant, because they're only going to have one big sign up there. I mean, granted, the multi-tenant is sharing theirs. So it stands to reason to me that you would have two different requirements, but that the multi would be a larger or a larger expanse than the single. I mean, that makes sense to me as opposed to having to keep them both the same.
Understood. And I'll share, your position on it when we take the UDC amendments
To the
forward.
council meeting.
Because it does stand to reason that if you've got multi-tenant, you've got, the major tenant's gonna be the big one. That's gonna show out most. Well, if you only got a single tenant, then they're gonna get the whole thing. So their sign can be much bigger than the major tenant of a multi-tenant facility.
Understood.
It kind of doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
What was overall calculation that the applicant determined with just using the geometry of the square footage of the oval and then the additional tenant signs?
It's 233.11.
Okay, that's everything.
That's everything. Yes, that's the main ID and the 2 tenant panels.
Any other questions?
I want to make a motion, but I want to try to make this not so messy.
I do too. There's a lot of different variations in here that we've been talking about. One of the things to take a look at, and maybe you can help us out with that, like to specify it to a particular single unit.
Can I ask a question before you say it? It seems like the way forward for us, and you stated this earlier, is this variant just allow this request to meet the freestanding variant requirement, and that solves everything. Am I mistaken?
So that is an option. I would say in the current practice of how we evaluate sign area, they would need to meet 250 square feet, which their sign exceeds by 30 square feet. How we currently calculate sign square footage.
Okay, all right,
Does that
so,
make sense?
Perhaps one way to do this would be to just approve whatever the applicant has submitted, to approve it in that sense. And
yes,
If we're looking at this, and I mean, who am I, but I disagree with the way the city calculates that square footage, but it is what it is. But if we approve the application the way it was submitted, I think that solves it.
okay.
I think that would
So
probably be the
that-
best way to do that.
That is definitely an option as well. You can
Okay, so-
approve as presented.
And you
It's
do
easy.
understand that once you approve it, you're setting precedent
Yes.
for the future.
Yes, yes.
And so that's what you want the future UDC to be.
So I would say, right, make sure you're looking just at this sign
this-
specific, and then we're gonna propose those UDC amendments to go to P and Z and council, but we'll definitely mention what happened here tonight.
It will set some precedent regardless of whether or not it's in black and white. It will set precedent.
What they request.
What I'd like to do, and this, and I don't mean to be premature if anybody has any other questions, but I'd like to put something out on the table.
Go right ahead.
Okay. What I would move is to approve the application as submitted, with the addition that it may be as tall as whatever the 50 feet that the freestanding sign, those requirements exist today. So however, if that makes sense, any sense. So as, it can go up to 50 feet, in
So
other
can-
words.
Can I rephrase, just to
Sure.
make sure that it's clear? So it would be for approval of 280 square feet, approval of 50 feet in height, and to not require masonry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because if the applicant chooses to increase their height from 40 to 50 feet, that's on the applicant, but what the board would be acceptable with is 280 square feet in area, 50 feet in height, and to not require masonry.
There you go.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding as well.
I think that's probably fair, the way the city's gonna look at it, because you're not,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my opinion isn't gonna change the city's view of the way they
Well,
calculate.
either way, if we calculate it the way that the city is calculating it, or if we do the oval, this accomplishes the sign that Murdoch's would like.
Okay. Do I hear a
So-
motion for that?
Yeah, so I'll break it down. I'll move that the applicant not be required to include the masonry, that the 280 square feet be permitted, and that the sign be permitted to be as high as 50 feet.
Okay. Do I hear a second? to that?
I second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any other questions? Okay, let's take a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 5-0, vote passes. All righty.
Welcome to the city.
Okay, item number 6, announcements by members. Anything that you have attended or plan to attend as part of a Board of Adjustment?
What? What?
attend?
Run that
Yes?
through.
None.
None.
None?
No.
Okay. Item B, announcements by city staff.
She's part of the pattern.
Okay, so based on that, I guess we can adjourn the meeting. We thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Did I hear it right?
And thank you to staff for a great presentation. We really appreciate it.
This is their second